after the enemy goal to score. Ally goal.
You like that, dead
Double
person?
kill. Triple kill. Your team scored.
Scars are tattoos, but with better stories.
Ally ball.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Rain, and today I am bringing you guys an in-depth buyer's guide for Lawbreakers on PS4. Now, this is more of a video to kind of guide you in whether or not this game is right for you, but it's not really, I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. This is actually more for me to kind of let you guys know how I felt about it and whether or not I will be grabbing or passing on this game, right? So, one of the first things I want to touch on is like a basic introduction about the game. So, Lawbreakers is it's an arena hero shooter similar to games such as Quake, with elements of like different variations of, I would say some kind of RPG elements, because I do feel there is some kind of lore to the game, the way they present it. They have classes, and each class is a character, right, with some type of story behind it. There's 18 characters, but there's only 9 roles. So what that means is there's 2 teams, right? When you play multiplayer, there's 2 teams. There's Law and there's Breakers. So with these 9 roles, depending on what side you're on, there's 18 characters, right? They look different depending on if you're on Law or Breakers, but they do the exact same thing. The players play the same, they have the same abilities, everything's the same, right? Just they look different. So the teams are split into groups of 5. There's 2 sides, and in the beta there were 4 different game modes that they let you play, right? So in the beta they provided us with 4 different game modes, and those 4 game modes are Blitzball, Turf War, which is like control or domination from other games. There's 3 flags, A, B, and C. Then there's Uplink and Overcharge. So let me just go over that briefly. Blitzball is like, it's like a real, you can compare it to any real sport like basketball, soccer, hockey. There's a ball in the middle of the map, and teams race to get the ball, get possession of the ball, and score it into the enemy base, where there's like a little portal. You can score the ball into the enemy base to get a point, right? Turf War is like domination from other games. You have 3 flags, A, B, and C, and you fight over control of these flags, right? Then you have Uplink, which is a variation of CTF almost. You take the satellite, which is in the middle of the map, and you bring it back to your base, and you let it charge up until 100%, and then you get a point. So that's Uplink in a nutshell. Then you have Overcharge, which is a variation of CTF. You take a battery from the center of the map, you bring it back to your base, and you let it charge up until 100%, and then your team gets a point. And at the same time, the enemy's trying to disconnect the battery from your spawn so that you can't reach 100%. So those were the 4 game modes. Now the characters, as I mentioned previously, there's 9 roles, 18 characters. Depending on what side you're on, Law or Breakers, you get to pick between these characters, right? Now for the most part, they're relatively cool characters from what I've played. Now in all fairness, I will admit I did not experiment with many of the characters because I didn't enjoy most of them, and I'll get into that in a bit, right? But before that, I'm just going to kind of explain, give you a brief rundown of the heroes, right? So there's different variations of playstyles that you can choose from, right? So we'll start from the top. There's Assassin, Battle Medic, Enforcer, Gunslinger, Harrier, Juggernaut, Titan, Vanguard, and Wraith. So as you can tell by the names, right? Juggernaut, Titan, Gunslinger, certain heroes are better at certain things. I shouldn't say heroes, certain characters, sorry, are better at certain things, right? Now, if you want to be big and bulky, you can pick Titan or Juggernaut. If you want to be swift and and sneaky you can pick assassin or wraith, which is the character I played a lot. If you want someone who's all around a good player, you can go enforcer or vanguard. So that was a brief rundown of the heroes that are available to you in the game that you can pick from, right? So we've gone over the characters and we've gone over the game modes, right? Now we're gonna go into a little bit of a breakdown of the pros and cons of this game, right? What I enjoyed and what I feel can be improved upon. So one of the first points I want to make is that I really enjoyed the characters in the game overall, and I really enjoyed playing Wraith, which is the gameplay you're seeing now. I strictly played Wraith. I felt the most comfortable with this character, and I felt like I could do the most with this particular character as well, right? So the art style itself is very well done. The mechanics are cool. The way the characters feel is very fluid and very dynamic, but not overwhelming, right? I never felt like I got a grasp of Wraith relatively quickly, and I feel any hero or any character you pick up, you can also get a grasp of it very, very quickly as well. So the overall character design and the character mechanics and the way they play, the way they operate, and the way they interact with each other is very fluid. And well, balancing is a topic we'll get into in a bit, but for the most part, I didn't feel like any character was super overpowered. I know a lot of people think that Wraith is overpowered, but I mean, he has his downfalls too. But would I say that the character balance is on point? Not necessarily, but we'll get into that in a bit. Now, the characters are well done. The map design is also very well done. I think the map design is probably one of the best parts about this game that I enjoyed in the beta. It's very fluid. It's not chaotic. It has a good flow, good direction, and it's crazy because for a game that's very fast paced, it never felt like I was overwhelmed or I was continuously getting shot on my back or the spawns were off, the flow was off. No, it always felt very direct, very responsive. There was never a point where I was lost on the map and I didn't know where to go. It was very straightforward for the most part, but at the same time very dynamic. The maps look good, they play well, there's a good balance when it comes to high ground and low ground, and the whole zero gravity, which is a very big part of this game, we'll get into that in a bit. That's, I guess, developed well or placed correctly around the map in a sense. Now, another point that I want to touch on is the game modes themselves. That's also another positive for this game. Blitzball, Turf War, Uplink, and Overcharge, they all played relatively well. Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, when it came to Uplink and Overcharge, I kind of lost track of the objective. I didn't really know what to do at that point or how to kind of get my team to win, so I just would kill stuff, which is what I'm best at. But Blitzball especially is very fun. Turf War is also very fun, so I enjoy the game modes. That's also another bright point to this game. So now that we've kind of gone over the pros, which is the characters, their overall design and feel is amazing. They play very well. The game modes are really fun. The map design is very fluid. It's not chaotic, has a good flow and direction to it. Now, some of the cons. Character balance. Now, what I mean by character balance in this case is that there was never really a defined role. There were tanks that had very high DPS, very high damage. There was a battle medic, but I don't think I've ever reaped the benefits of a battle medic that was on my team. So it does give you the options to play like tank heroes or tank characters or fast-paced characters or I think there's only like one healer. Like, they give you these options, but I don't think they're defined enough. I don't know if they're trying to go for that really. I don't know if they want to be like a defined kind of thing where a tank and a healer is crucial to a team. I don't know if they want it to be that way, but it wasn't defined enough in my opinion. For the most part, I felt like people would just pick whatever they wanted to and it didn't make a difference. Character balance and team balance, I don't really know what direction they're trying to go with it, but if they want it to be more defined, then they kind of definitely need to work on that for sure. So another kind of con that I want to go into is that there was just a lack of connection with the characters. And once again, I think because of the way they designed this game, they wanted it to be some kind of connection with the characters, right? Because they gave them this kind of attitude and this kind of backstory and lore to them. that I think they want us to kind of connect with these characters, but never did I really feel connected, and I'll tell you why. I think what this game kind of suffers from is, I know it's trying to cater to the more mature audience, which is great, but I think it gets a little too edgy for its own good at times, and I know that some of the voice lines and some of the antics are funny, but honestly, for the most part, I never really got into that whole aspect of them being super edgy, and I never really got into it. I don't know, maybe it's just not for me, but I think this game does suffer from that, and they may want to tone down just a little bit. And I think that's where, personally for me, the lack of connection came with the characters. I just felt like overall they were just a little too much at times, right? And I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it really entertaining. So I was like, whatever. The characters look cool, but the way they act is a little not so cool. So one other con that I want to touch on, and I think this is probably its biggest hurdle to overcome, and that is the lack of precision with the movements. Now, there are games out there where you have very fast and sharp movements, but they're very precise at the same time. This game, because of the zero gravity aspect to the game, it kind of suffers from precision when it comes to movements. Also, one point I wanted to touch on when it comes to the map design itself, right? So this game has a lot to do with zero gravity. They have the whole point in this game is that you fight over an objective in the middle of the map, but the middle of the map is zero gravity, right? So movement really comes into play, right? Skill, there's a huge skill gap between a good and a great player, and I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of potential for this game to be competitive, and if they want to get into esports, I think they can, because there is a big skill gap. And the whole point of this game, as you'll see throughout the video, right? You go into the middle of the map, it's just complete zero gravity. You're flying around. You have to use your movements and abilities to kind of maneuver and get kills, which is very fun. It's very fast paced, but once again, I never felt like it was chaotic, which is a very good thing. So when you talk about zero gravity with this game, it's one of its positives, but it's also one of its negatives, and I'll tell you why. Because, as I mentioned, right, when you try to kind of maneuver around the map, you're just floating for the most part, and it makes it difficult to be very precise, and that can get very frustrating at times. That was one thing that frustrated me the most about this game, is that I'm trying to move one way, but my character's just floating, and I can't get to where I want to fast enough, and I just die. And I think that's one thing that kind of needs to be toned down, maybe, or just kind of adjusted, is the precision when you're trying to maneuver, especially in zero gravity, and even points where I wasn't in zero gravity. I felt like my momentum would just constantly carry me like around the corner or off the map or somewhere I didn't want to be, and I think that needs to be adjusted, because it's very important that you're able to move where you need to, because this game relies heavily on movement, and I think that's a big part of the skill, is to master the movement, right? But when you don't have full control over what you're trying to do, it gets a little frustrating, and I think that's one of the biggest issues with this game, right? So we have character balance, no defined roles, lack of connection with the characters. It's a bit edgy at times, too edgy is what I mean, and the lack of precision when it comes to your movements. But I mean, as you can see, that those problems are not game breaking whatsoever, right? They can definitely be worked around and worked on, improved. So at no point did I feel like something in the game was really bothering me to a point where I was like, I need to put this game down, I can't play because of this particular reason. I never came to that, right? And that's a great thing. But overall, I would have to rate this game a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the beta. None of the points that I mentioned are necessarily game breaking, except for maybe the movement. If it's not adjusted, it might get a little frustrating, but overall the characters are really well done. The map design is amazing. The flow is incredible for such a fast-paced game. Wraith is very fun. Even though I only played one hero, I was totally satisfied with that, and I had so much fun playing Wraith. I mean, I feel like Bosky Productions and Cliffy B and all these guys, you know, on the development team, I think they did a really good job with this game. I think they have a really fun game on their hands. Like, it could get into esports if they wanted to, and they can do very well. So my verdict is, I will be grabbing this game. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I think it has a lot of potential to be very good. Just a couple of tweaks here and there, as I mentioned. But overall, I have to say I'm impressed and I enjoyed this game. And I hope this guide helped you guys. It was like my first time trying this kind of video, giving like an in-depth guide about a game, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I definitely enjoyed making it for you guys. I hope it's helpful. But like I said, I'm not trying to convince you either way, right? It's not about me trying to tell you what to do. Just kind of maybe offer some assistance and some insight, right? But for me, I will be grabbing it. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. Please like, comment, subscribe. Once again, this has been your boy Rain, and catch you on the next time. Peace.